Hello, everyone. Lovely to see you. Thanks for joining us today. I hope everyone has had a good day so far. I hope you have a little bit of sunshine wherever you are.
Hi, Louise.
Yes.
It's Sam speaking here. Just a
Yeah.
quick question. I've just had a message from someone who said they registered on Eventbrite but didn't get a Zoom link.
Okay.
Shall I? Oh, no, wait. They've just sent me another message saying, sorry, I found it.
Ah, good. Good,
There we
good.
go. Problem
Excellent.
over. I'll leave you in peace.
No problem. It's off and the way.
Louise, just in case as well, you didn't get the message I saw come in from Jen Raven. I
Yes.
think she was wondering if she'd.
I'm here, Anna. It's all
Oh,
good.
you're here. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't see you on the bar. I thought I'd mention it just in case you weren't in, but you're here. Good. We're all right.
We've got people flooding in. Lovely to see you all. Oh, yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. Great to see you. And no problem, Jane. That's absolutely fine. We come, we go. The parcels, they arrive. The dogs, they bark at the door. They need to get in. They need to get out. It's all good. Fantastic. Right. I might just make Becky co-host, and then if more people come in, perhaps Becky, you would be able to let them in and just keep an eye, and I'll get started in a second. Okay, lovely. Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's lovely to see you. If you would just like, while the last few people are coming in, to just pop into the chat to introduce yourselves, just to say who you are and why you're here, just in a couple of a line, that would be lovely. Few words, just pop that into chat. Thank you. And we'll get cracking in a moment. Just got people coming in. Wonderful. Right, I think I'm going to get started. And as you're all just saying hello, I will introduce myself too. My name's Louise Govia. I am the Chief Exec of Artswork, and we are really pleased to be holding the second in this series of 4 online communities of practice sessions around youth voice and youth leadership, supported by Arts Council South East, but really for all of us to learn and to share where we're at and to hear from some other people as well. I am a white woman in my 50s with short blonde hair and a blue jumper and a blurry background today. As we've said, for those of you who were here at the last session, Artswork is really involved in quite a lot of different youth voice and youth leadership programs. It's a kind of key part of our work, enabling young people to make change for themselves and for others. So we were really pleased to partner with Norfolk and Norwich Festival Connect and Create to put on these sessions. And you'll hear from Anna from Festival Connect and Create a little bit later on. So what are we doing today? Firstly, I want to just reflect a bit back on the first session that we led last month, which was really interesting and really good. And we had some great learning from the contributions that people made and the evaluations that we did. So if you were here from that, it was fantastic to see how much of it people loved, and actually great to hear what would have made it even better. And we've taken that all on board. So in this session, we're still going to be hearing from inspiring organisations and inspiring young people. Sometimes, this time though, through pre-records and film, particularly because there are going to be quite a lot of younger children in today's session. We will be sharing some top tips and resources, and then we'll actually bring those together at the end of this session with some top tips from our speakers and some of your contributions, and we'll email that round in a few days' time. So you'll have something very concrete very soon. There are lots more resources on our Thinkific site, and we're going to show you today later on how that works. And we're also going to give you time to reflect and work and talk together in small groups, because we know that that is very much appreciated and valued by people. So our timetable for today, I'll just do a very brief introduction to today's topic in a moment. We're going to hear from 3 different organisations and have a bit of inspiration from their work. We're going to have a break about 5 to 4 for 10 minutes. There'll be a little thing to think about over the break. We'll then come back and there'll be some breakout group work to explore a particular aspect of today's topic. And then we're going to come back and share and wrap that up. So today's session is all about listening to and hearing from young people. So youth consultation, I guess, with all sorts of different ages and in different contexts. And we'll be exploring with some suggestions how we can best set this up for success. What are some different creative approaches we can take? How can we frame our questions so that young people can really engage with them and respond? How do we make sure we're really listening and not just hearing what we want to hear because we've got an agenda? What about young children who don't yet speak? Actually, all the other non-verbal communication that all young people do. How do we then show that we've really listened? And what do we do if what young people say is a bit of a surprise, a shock, or is uncomfortable? How do we ensure that their views are safely represented without being edited out or downplayed? So there's a lot that we're going to explore today and get into. And I just wanted to start, because we like to start these sessions, if possible, with some young people's voices. But before we meet today's speakers, I want to just show a couple of minutes from a film by Play Disrupt, who wanted to join us today, but are actually travelling to Anglesey, and you'll see why in a second. But just so that you can see some of their play and making-based approaches to consultation, and particularly hear why young people in Anglesey really like it. So I'm just going to show, a little bit, I'm going to skip forward and show another little bit. So one sec.
Is he back? You could have got your friend. You could have got.
Hi, if you don't mind muting, lovely person, whoever you are, that would be wonderful. Thank you. Hopefully, can one of the home team just shout out that you can see that? Is that all good? I can't see anybody now.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. That's great. Right, I'm just going to press play.
Hello.
We are Play Disrupt.
We are a public engagement studio based in Bristol that uses play and creative methods to bring different people's voices into decision making.
We are working on the Public Mapping Project, a research project to create a communal digital map of Anglesey with multiple layers that reflect different aspects of life on the island. It is linked to the Future Generations Act and will be used by local authorities to inform their planning in the future. As part of the Public Mapping Project, we've been working with groups of young people across Anglesey to help design how the map looks and what symbols, sounds or movements we use to represent different things on it. We've been using games and making models to play with different ways of representing things on the map to represent young people and their experiences of the area. Here are some of the examples of the icons young people have made in our workshops.
Three, die, in.
and bobs to have this conversation do? Does
It helps you like express what you're on about more, because normally you can't actually like say it. You can't show what you're saying. You can actually.
Okay, but by making it, you can
Yeah,
show it.
making it, you can show more what you mean of like what you want to like
Actually have.
yeah actually have in parks or anywhere.
Yeah.
I feel like when you have it just like drawn even, I'd rather like build it to actually show what the structure would look like.
Hopefully just gave you a little bit of a flavour of the sorts of approaches that Play Disrupt are using, and how when we talk about consulting with young people, it really can be anything as playful and as creative as you like. There are so many different ways to do it that aren't just giving them a survey. I know you all know this, but I just think it's anything where somebody is being asked their opinion and get to go boing, I think is a very good thing. So let's crack on with hearing from our different speakers. I'm going to hand over to Anna, who's going to introduce them, and I will remember to spotlight you, Anna, for the video.
Thank you, Louise. Hi, everybody. I don't know how it is where you are, but it's already getting dark here in Norwich. I'm sitting here. I'm a woman in her 50s with long blonde hair and a very warm jacket because it's in a chilly room. I'm really pleased to introduce our speakers for the day today. So you're going to hear some really interesting, thought-provoking and inspiring stories, hopefully, with these kind of mini shares that we have. First up, it's Becky East. I can see you in my top bar, Becky. So welcome to Becky. She's the placemaking creative producer from Artswork. Becky, would you be happy to introduce yourself, including a visual description, and to share your story with us?
Thanks, Anna. Yeah, I'm Becky East, and I am the placemaking creative producer for our Young Cultural Changemakers programme in Arran, which is in West Sussex. I am a woman in her 40s. I currently look like I'm at the North Pole, and I wear big glasses and have short brown hair. I am now going to put up all my wishes to the gods of technology and hopefully share an interesting presentation with you about our work. So maybe I'm not. Right, here we are. We're 18 months into a programme at Artswork, which develops co-produced cultural commissions in the 5 areas that Artswork focuses on, which is Arran in West Sussex, the Isle of Wight, Slough, the New Forest and Rushmore, and Dover. And in each area, these cultural commissions are based on young people's ideas for the changes and experiences that they would like to make happen for under 25s in their places. And sometimes those places are as big as the cities or districts that I've mentioned, and sometimes those places are council state scale.
She's filled in the booking request form 6 times.
Oh, Erin, would you mind muting? Thanks. Oh no, it isn't Erin, sorry. I'm also getting notifications to let people in. Gosh, multitasking. Okay. So in each of these areas, which can be very big or very small, it can be as small as an estate, we have been developing practices that help the 5 of us who work as creative producers to have really
You've just muted yourself, Becky.
I did not mute myself, but I was muted. But that's I'm back.
I apologise. I was trying to mute everyone and I muted you too. So sorry.
No problem. I'm really glad that the technical issues are not of my making. That's a win from my point of view. So in each of these areas, we've been developing a whole range of practices. skills and things not to do, as well as things to do, as we learn about how to facilitate those meaningful conversations with young people in order to co-design often quite complex projects in their communities. So I tried to organise my thoughts to share with you into 3 principles. There's just a whole mass of material and examples that I could share, and I'm really happy if anyone wants to follow up with me after this session with specific questions. The 3 principles, I tried very hard to make them all begin with P. So if when you're reading it, you could really emphasize the P in transparency, practicalities, and pitfalls, of which there are quite a few to be aware of. So when I talk about transparency, I'm talking about us as representatives of creative organisations sharing our power. Transparency is the opposite of tokenism. Transparency is about full inclusivity in a process. And transparency in practice ensures that the young people and children that you work with enter the consultation on the same level as you. So, a few examples of what this means in practice. Every consultation or inquiry that we enter into as arts organisations begin with a question. Starting with a clear question is essential for getting any kind of clear answer. And starting with a clear question elevates your participants to be on the same level as you when thinking about the project. So, as an example, I ran a consultation fairly early doors in this project where I said to the participants, I'd like to hear your ideas about your town and ways to improve it for young people. I now feel like there is a much better way of being transparent in structuring questions like this. So my alternative proposition is to say, we have investment to make in a creative project that will happen in your town this year to try and make it a better place to live for young people aged 0 to 25. What kind of projects do you think might help? So what you can see in here is that transparency in terms of setting and sharing your question of inquiry is a lot to do with specificity. So making it clear in here that we're talking about a creative project and not, for example, adding an ice rink, which is one that always comes up in consultations if the questions are too open-ended. It's also being specific about the way, the mechanics of the project. We've got investment to make. We have some funding. We want to use it. We want your help to do that. It's specific about the age of the young people that we're trying to support through the project. There's a lot of concrete detail, and that concrete detail invites the young people who you are collaborating with to join you in inquiry into the question in a much more inclusive way. Transparency, as well as influencing how you frame your question, this principle can also be adopted in the way that you bring contextual information into your consultation. So by contextual information, I essentially mean making sure that you are sharing everything that you understand and learn about the subject that you're exploring. So for us, this is often to do with place. My examples are quite place focused. But yeah, the first one, worked examples of what a change might look like. What kind of projects could be points of reference or inspiration, practical things that have happened with this kind of investment in other places. That's something that you can climb inside as a young person and really think about, would that work here? Is that relevant here? How would I change it? Place-based stuff, visiting a site that you're talking about making something happen on. If a site is described by one of the young people in your consultation, can you get the group out there, or can you bring that site into the room, perhaps with a map or photos of the town centre that you might be talking about, or the seafront? Drawings of any existing plans. there's lots of contextual detail that will really help to make sure that you are transparently sharing what sort of projects might come out of the consultation that you're asking the young people to participate in. Oh yes, I know you could do a video tour, which we recently did, of a new venue for a youth group that I was working with. And building on that, transparency isn't only about ensuring they have access to a full understanding of the brief, but it's also about making sure that all participants can fully understand the options. So in our context, talking about having a cultural project is a sort of jargon, and there's an awful lot of jargon that is connected to our sector. We can't necessarily ask a group of young people what kind of creative workshops they'd love to participate in without giving them a good set of examples to choose between. So in my practice, I've had interactive physical whiteboards where you can move magnets around, and there are drawings of all the different kinds of art practices that we could bring in, where the young people could also add their own. We've also done a sort of digital version of that. Where possible, I include images of different kinds of art practices and what they might look like in a session or out on the street, and as well as lots of verbal explanation and sense checking, that young people really fully understand the options that are available to them before you're asking them to start feeding in on any decisions. Transparency is also being as clear as possible, as early as possible, exactly how the consultation findings will be used. I mean, in some ways, this is just a matter of kind of basic respect. It shows that we respect the input that they're putting into a project enough to be very clear with them about how it's going to be used. So, for example, what exactly is going to happen next? What is the timeline? What are the choices or the processes that will happen outside of the room with the things that have come up inside the room? When can participants expect to hear from you again? And where their ideas will go, are they going to be going into a folder that will be referred to by lots of other people, real or digital? What are you going to do with what they've shared with you? So that is a cluster of ideas around transparency, which you'll be pleased to hear is the longest section, because I think it's the most important when it comes to consultation. But thinking then about practicalities for cultural consultation, once you feel that you've got everything in place for young people to understand what you're asking of them, how can you meaningfully use creative practice to help unlock it? Over the past 18 months, we found two main mechanisms happening in our creative consultation workshops. All of our consultations involve some kind of creative practice while we have the discussion. And we found that there are two main mechanics that seem to happen in these sessions. So the first is creativity acts as a kind of lubricant. So the art stimulates the conversation. The picture here is of a group of young people participating in a dance workshop that happened over in Slough last year in a secondary school. And we ran the dance workshop, and then afterwards we all sat down in a warm, slightly sweaty heap and had a very relaxed conversation about the sorts of projects that they might like to see happening in their area. So when creativity is a lubricant, freedom and flow is unlocked by sessions, often physical sessions, but not only physical sessions. So the examples here where that's happened for us has been circus skill sessions, dance, music production, sometimes lyric writing, although anything that's using words will quite often move really readily into explicit conversation about the question that you're thinking about. And it's really good when you're doing these creativity as lubricating sessions that you have the question in the room from the off. You don't have to talk about it, but being really explicit about what it is that you're trying to explore through the session, and having that maybe stuck up on a wall or on a screen, or just verbally talked about before everything gets going, and known as something you're going to come back to, is really helpful. The other main mechanic that happens, that's happened for us in running creative sessions, is where the practice is the container. So the art practice that you engage in is used to directly illustrate the idea. So this image is from a session exploring different ideas for cultural spaces in Littlehampton that an artist led for us, using Matisse cutouts as an inspiration. Sessions that include things like photo collage, which again could be physical or digital, or cutting lots of things out from magazines about a place, writing rap lyrics to explore feelings about growing up in a particular area, textile design to dream up a different vision of local conservation or the textures of nature that are meaningful to young people. So by directly engaging in creative practice, we find that the art itself illustrates the young people's ideas, and you can have conversations with them about the ideas that they're exploring as they work. And as anyone who has a teenager will be all too aware, having complex conversations while you don't have to be directly looking at one another, you can be engaged in a different point of focus, is a really great way to dig deep and make sure that you're having those effective conversations with some of the participants. All creative practice also, when it's well facilitated, offers loads of different points of entry and levels and ways of expressing yourself for the participants. So one of the key things that we have become more aware of over the last 18 months has been how important it is to give participants lots of different opportunities and languages to express themselves through. Some children will be much more comfortable speaking verbally. I know we're going to talk about non-verbal stuff in a second more. There are also young people who don't feel confident talking in front of a group, but might be able to express something very beautifully through movement, through physical art, through music. And it's all incredibly effective, and they all work in different ways. So finally, a few pitfalls to watch out for when you're getting started with creative consultation. The first is really what I just touched on, accessibility. Creative processes can privilege one style of communication over another. It's really important to look for openings for all those different communication styles within the sessions. So be aware of and look for ways to support alternative communication styles when you're working. That might be making sure that you have the opportunity to check in one-to-one with each of your participants in case somebody is more comfortable, as one young person was with me, writing down her ideas on very small pieces of paper and handing them to me to look after rather than speaking to the room. Making sure that you have material that is available in large print, in written form, in digital form, explored verbally, and always sense checking that your participants fully understand what you're talking about before you throw out complex questions to them. Clarification as definition. This is really about clarifying questions which are really helpful in making sure that you've understood a young person's ideas, but can easily slip into you defining their work. So if you're looking, for example, at a young person drawing this sandcastle over here, you might be tempted to say, it's a beautiful sandcastle. Do you wish there was more things that you could do on the beach? Instead, try to remember to keep clarifying questions really open-ended. Can you tell me more about what you're drawing here and what you love about it, for example? Even if the idea that they're expressing is really left field, try to get at the underlying inspiration through open-ended questions, like, why do you think it would be fun to swing on your own in a park, for example? And finally, check your bias. How far into the project are you? How strong a sense do you already have from yourself or other stakeholders about what would be great to hear from the young people that you're working with? You have to try to keep that out of the room. You can compensate for that by having, for example, an independent scribe in sessions. So you're not both responsible for the project and responsible for recording the ideas that come up about it. You can also compensate for it by planning consultations as early within a project's life cycle as is humanly possible. It isn't always possible, but by putting it in early, you are not coming in with the weight of, oh my goodness, we have to get answers about this particular thing. And that's what my ears are pricked up for, and that's really all I can take in from this session, because I'm worried about the project that I have to deliver. And that is it from me. I hope that the timing was okay, Louise. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Becky. That was wonderful, really comprehensive. Really talking about the detail that can make so much difference to our projects. Yeah, really clear. Just so much good stuff packed into that presentation. So thank you so much. Just a reminder to everybody that at the very end of all three of our speakers, there's going to be time for questions and discussion. So hang on to anything that's occurring to you, make a little note of it. I'm just going to move now to our next speaker, our next sharer. It's Rona Matheson from Starcatchers, and she's going to talk about what they've learned from creative consultation with babies and early years children. So both pre-verbal and verbal. So welcome, Rona. Would you be happy to introduce yourself and give a verbal description, please?
Yes, I am just going to share my screen. So hopefully you can see that and you're only seeing this. Can I just confirm you're only seeing the slides, or do I need to swap my screen around? Can you see notes?
Yes, we can.
You can. How did that happen? Right. Hi there. My name is Rona Matheson. And I am the Chief Executive of Starcatchers, and we are Scotland's Arts and Early Years organisation. I am a white woman in my 40s with shoulder-length brown hair, and today I am wearing glasses. I don't normally wear glasses, but today I am. So I am delighted to be here just to give you a kind of a flying trip through some of the work that we do and how we engage with babies and young children. Our target age range is from birth to 5. So I don't generally, we do work with young people, but they tend to be young parents because we are often working with young parents who are under the age of 25. But I tend to really talk about babies and children and not really talk about young people. But I think it's really interesting to kind of look at how we position them alongside the wider conversations around consultation and participation with older children and young people. It's a very prime conversation in Scotland at the moment because we have just incorporated the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child into domestic law, and that's heavily influencing a lot of the practice that's taking place. So a quick snapshot of who we are. We are, as I said, Scotland's Arts and Early Years organisation. We create and tour performances and installations for that birth to 5 age group around the country. We deliver programmes of community engagement looking at consistent engagement between artists and the same groups of babies and young children in identified communities. We deliver programmes of training for the early learning and childcare workforce that includes family support workers, nursery workers, early primary school teachers, the full gamut under that heading. And we also deliver training for artists. And finally, a key aspect of our work is around our advocacy activity, and that's where a lot of the consultation work that we've done really has sat over the years. We've done consultations for Scottish Government, for Creative Scotland, and we're currently doing some work for the Scottish COVID-19 inquiry, ensuring that the voices of young children and their families are being included in the work that's taking place there. This is where having too many screens is too problematic, and my mouse is on the wrong page. So, as I said, The UNCRC has been incorporated into domestic law in Scotland, and whilst it's ratified in the rest of the United Kingdom, the incorporation in Scotland takes children's rights to a new level, and I'm particularly fascinated by how we ensure that babies and young children's rights are being respected. We've always talked about children's rights throughout Starcatcher's history. So Starcatchers has been around since 2006, but from the outset, we were generally only talking about Article 31, that right to rest, leisure, play, and arts and cultural life. But what we've really discovered as we've deepened our awareness and understanding around rights is that actually the work that we do enables babies and young children to realise a whole range of their rights, and the arts are a brilliant vehicle for enabling children to access the breadth and the depth of their rights. And that's particularly important when it comes to very young children and thinking about their participation rights, because those are the rights that they are least likely to have upheld, that right to self-expression, that right to be heard. And listening to what babies and young children has been a really integral part of the work that we've done throughout our kind of history, and responding to what they've shared with us has informed the work that we will deliver in the moment, but it's continuously informing the development of the practice and the strategic development of the organisation. And that really comes from the kind of the outset of our work. So when we began, we worked our 2 pilot phases. We worked with academic researchers who developed a suite of engagement signals that we still use. And I'm going to show a very short film here that will give you a snapshot of what those engagement signals are, and with examples of interactions from some of our productions. So hopefully, if I hit, there we go. So hopefully that just gives you a little snapshot of the different ways that actually we, from a kind of professional space, can be observing how babies and young children are engaging with the different kinds of experiences that we're offering. Those engagement signals were developed across a range of experiences, from highly participatory work to end-on performances, so they actually are applicable in lots of different contexts. And those responses from the little ones, I think, really demonstrate how they can share their agency, how they make their contributions in those contexts. And that is really important when I think we're thinking about consultation and another participation activity that we're undertaking. It's really fine work. You have to be really attuned to the different ways in which that audience engage and connect and communicate, but also the relationship with parents, I'll come on to in a second, or the carers, is also really key, because they quite often end up being an interpreter of some of the ways in which little ones are communicating. So a big focus for us most recently, and I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to fly through this, is this research work around the voice of the baby. And the title is deliberately provocative because of the work around the voice of the child that is really present here at the minute. And I really want to make sure that we're not overlooking the needs, interests and rights of babies in consultation and participation activity that's taking place. So we were funded to undertake this research project, and we had researchers from the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland and from Queen Margaret. And through the work that they've undertaken, they have developed what's called the Starcatchers, a reflective guide for the arts. And I think I've shared a link for that work already. And just to give you a really quick snapshot of that work, what the researchers came up with was this social construct of participation. So a baby never comes to an activity on its own. There's always a parent or carer there. So it was always really important for us that we are being mindful of the people that are in the space. So the artist or the facilitator, because we're now sharing this work across sectors, the baby or the young child, and the parent or carer. And then that bottom part of that kite model is the other people who are in the space, because it's very rare that we would be doing one-to-one work, but at the heart of it is the creative arts experience that is being developed and planned by early years artists who are specialists in their field. The researchers have identified these 5 areas for consideration when we're thinking about consultation and participation activity. So thinking about the space, thinking about how we develop those sensitive, informed relationships. Work with very young children can't happen in 1 or 2 sessions. If you want to have quality consultation participation, it needs to be over an extended period of time, enabling people to build those relationships and understand the ways in which communication is taking place. Navigating the identity of everyone that's in the space. There's some section in the guide around gender identity in very young children, and that was something that was present in one of the sessions that the researchers were doing their observations in. Respecting and validating that the complex communication of babies, they communicate in so many different ways. You have to be very kind of sensitive to the ways in which they are sharing with you, and finally making time. So it's not just about time in a session to enable young children to be heard. That's really fundamental, but actually being aware that if you've got a baby that's 4 weeks old and maybe you're working over a couple of months, by the time they get to 3 months or 6 months, actually there's a huge amount of time in their lives. So what does how do you respond to that development that might be taking place within the work that's that's going on? So we're looking at all of these sections combined, but looking at them individually when we are planning, delivering, and then evaluating the work. We've created an in-practice guide, which I've also shared a link to, which is really to support professionals from across sectors, but particularly from the arts, to think about what they might, the approach they might take when they're doing participation and consultation with babies and young children. This is just a page from within the guide. I've got a couple of examples, but I'm really conscious of time. That we've been implementing that work in some of the consultation work that we're doing. As I say, we're doing some work with the COVID-19 inquiry, but we've been doing this work in a community in near Perth in Scotland that's part of a larger consultation that's looking at the exploring the wellbeing economy and thinking about wellbeing budgeting for that community and what's important. And there's a whole range of interesting findings that are coming from that. That report is on our website, and I can share that after as well. And as I say, what we're trying to do is implement this tool in the short term to look at how we are planning activity, then think about how it's shaping delivery and looking at intentional planning over the course of a series of sessions. And then long term, how does what little ones and their parents and carers share with us, how does that inform strategic planning for us as an organisation, but also how can that inform consultation activity that we're also commissioned to do. I'm going to stop talking because I've gone over by about 5 minutes and I'm really sorry.
Thank you, Rona, so much. Couldn't bear to interrupt you. That was just so valuable. All those kind of talking about that kind of importance of that kind of exquisite and refined noticing and interpretation and all the things that build up to really great practice, working with such young age groups as well. I'm sure everybody's found that fascinating. So thank you so much. It's wonderful to hear all about. We move to our third sharer now. I'd like to introduce Cheryl Gavin from Helix Arts. Cheryl, are you happy to introduce yourself and give us a visual description, please, before you move to share with us?
Sure am. Hello, everyone. I'm going to give you a big warm Geordie hello. If you can't hear us say it now, otherwise this is going to be embarrassing. I am the director of Helix Arts, and we're based in the northeast of England. I'm a white woman in the early 40s, which I'm just reminding myself before I hit the mid 40s. Brown hair, hopefully smiling throughout with me red lippy on and some lovely dangly earrings that might keep me calm when I'm talking to you. So what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about who Helix Arts are, what we do, and then hopefully explore the ways that we've worked with lots of different diverse communities, especially young people in the Northeast. And I'm going to take you through the lens of one of our projects. So if you don't know Helix Arts, we really specialise, I guess, in participatory art across ages, across places, in different ways, by working with artists as our co-producers and also with our long-term partners and partnerships, predominantly in the voluntary community settings across the region. And we do that, I guess, in lots of different places, in hospitals, in prisons, in youth justice settings, in community centres, and parks and pubs. And we've been doing it quite a while. So we had our 40th recently, which really helped with tune into where we're going and how we want to take youth voice forward. And before I begin, probably, I would just like to invite you to maybe roll your shoulders and shake it off before I continue speaking to you, after I know that you've listened to others. And I've just got to work the technology out. So I'm not alone today because I've got Gracie and Rex previously recorded, and I've got this little thing that I need to work out. I've got to hover over their voices, so please be patient. Rex wanted to be represented as a fox today, and Gracie wanted to be represented as a moth. So they're going to hopefully kick me off.
Kind of let us make it in a way that we wanted to, and let us have all creative liberty with it, and ensure that we got to say what we wanted to.
Yeah, you made sure that we knew it wasn't going to judge us for whatever we thought or said, and it made a very nice open environment that you felt like you could speak and say what you thought.
So we're going to hear from Gracie and Rex throughout, and they worked on a project called Never, which you're going to hear about, and they were with our partners Bernardo's. Rex is about 16, Gracie's around 17, but the work that I'll describe is mainly around younger teenagers right up to 18-year-old. And I'm just going to share or meander through what we've done around safe consultation, but also influencing what comes out of that. So I know our previous speakers have spoke lots about the kind of strategic scope and the real, like the hows. So hopefully I'll give you a bit more of a different viewpoint around how we explore uncomfortable truths and how we share some difficult things in more comfortable ways. The scene setting for that's useful for you to know is that our children and young people's work does reach from kind of 0 to 25, and a lot of it is around those vulnerable young people who are facing all sorts of inequality. So some of our challenges, things that we need to adapt, is around how we deal with cumulative voices as well as kind of individual groups of young people, and what we need to adapt in terms of that listening, exploring and understanding because of their background or what their baseline or what their lived experience is. And we can only do that by doing these other things that I've described here. I will fly through some of the slides to allow and make sure that you hear from the young people and also the work that they've done. So a lot of my time, and I'm sure a lot of your time, is this idea of networking with purpose. In like, lots of people hate the word network, and it's that like the joy of meeting people, understanding what they want. And I think either strategic or delivery partners, it's about building that trust, isn't it? The trust phases, and that's iterative and it changes and it can be gnarly. So we try and do our work in lots of different ways, depending on the level of trust and the level of gnarliness. So it might be something very straightforward and simple in the start, but it becomes really complicated and confusing at different stages. So we often think about our delivery work, our consultation and listening throughout, and it's this kind of reflective loop and constant in terms of what the goals and the direction of the work is. And our young people are the best people to put the brakes on when we're not doing that the way that they want. But we've got to invite them in, just like I invited you to roll your shoulders. They will accept that invitation, or they'll change that and turn that invitation round. So yeah, if you get time to look into Helix, there's lots of different explanations of the way we do that across our work. But I'm going to talk about Never. Now, Never was born, if you can hear, I am obviously a clear Geordie. Never was born because we were talking with a producer with lived experience. And I was like, we've got this drugs project. We've been given this opportunity to apply for this project. I really care about it. It's in my background. And I cannot believe that they're saying these things, what they're trying to find out. And we use this phrase in lots of different ways. And we'll go, never, and it kind of stuck. And we started talking to young people about, we've got this money and we're trying to explore what's best to do with you about finding out these things. And Never stayed forever and ever, and it's really stuck in my mind. So it's a project I'm dead passionate about. And when we started Never, there was lots of things we needed to think about, what the role of the young person was, what scope and what agency. We heard earlier about power, what scope and agency our artists had, that dynamic, that Venn diagram, what is the art, what is the social outcome, what different people are in that melting pot. And it was very quick, a quick decision of like, this has to be a whole host of mixed participatory art approaches in a community action research bubble, I suppose, to use analogy on analogy. Young people's insights is a phrase I bloody hate. Like, they might be insightful, they may not be. You know, what are they given? What are we hoping to get out of that with our bias? Because however much we try not to be biased, that comes, and young people share their bias because that's the experience that they've had. One thing that's really important in the work that I think young people pick up on and how we build trust with commissioners is getting the right workforce. So our artists and producers being those role models and have moments of experience, whether direct or indirect, about what you're trying to find out. And the thing that stuck in my mind when we're like, we find out insights, don't do a survey. And I was like, they still want a report though. They still want a set of recommendations. So the thing right in the back of my mind constantly is like, you'll get your report, but you'll get something else, which hopefully I'll describe now. So these were the things that our wonderful council into the start, it was like, oh, what's this relationship with our commissioners? You want these things, and although you're asking for it in different ways, I still think you might want it in some traditional ways. So we had these questions. We had layers and layers of prompts under these, because actually what we realized is when some commissioners ask questions, we know they already have some answers. So we flipped these questions when we took them to young people, like, how would you ask it? How would you want to find out? And in the early days, we had some young people on placement, and they were really important in shaping the identity. So you can see he has a little picture about the mood board, the identity and the messaging before we even went in. So this constant, how are we going to tackle things? This slide, hopefully you'll see, it's the process that we go through. So I'm just going to let you listen to the middle stage, because I am aware of time, the middle stage. This little mind map is actually what I put in with the application, so they can see the busyness and the complexity of doing proper listening, understanding, moving through the stages of listening and not knowing what's going to come out the other end.
And we basically decided to try and show how drugs can ruin lives. But then we also try to show how, for some people, that's how they cope. Like, that's the only thing they have. Like, they don't have anything else. And so, unfortunately, that's what they need to use. And but yeah, I just try to show, like, the bad side, but also not necessarily the good side, but why there shouldn't be villainized.
I think we're going to agree with that. What the challenge is that's one person's opinion, that's one person's viewpoint. They worked with other young people. There was multiple groups of young people with different backgrounds. So we were in a PRU, we were in a social mental health setting, we were in a wide range of schools, we were in youth groups, which actually drew from different schools, what is perceived as young people at risk and hard kids. And they all want to create in different ways. They all want to get their message out in different ways. So we were mobilized early on to understand with those partners, what is it going on in those young people's lives, to try and work towards this creation and advocacy. So those structures change throughout. You know, you dream up things and you think consultation and listening could work in a certain way. And then we are I guess, an interesting organisation where we like to disrupt and break things a little bit. And at that point, that's when we knock back on the commissioner's door and really make sure we're on the same page. So we got an agreement very early on that we could ripple out real-time findings, understand what's going on with drugs in young people's lives, and they wouldn't filter it or moderate it, which I'm not sure that'll ever happen again, but it was nice while it happened on this project. The key thing that we had to balance was expectations and perceptions of what was coming out, and also how the conversations could be taken out of context. And we did hit some gnarly PR. If you want a cup of tea and you're in the Northeast, I can tell you about that. But the exciting thing was the different models were right for the young people that were involved in the way that they wanted to be involved.
So when you came into Healy,
oh no,
it wasn't usual. It wasn't like just a screen on a wall with a bunch of people sitting in front of it. Can you just share a little bit how your animation was shared in the event?
Yeah, well, obviously the animation was shown, and it was shown along with a lot of others, but the atmosphere that was created for it was putting you into a scene, an actual scene that could happen, that does happen, and it allowed you to obviously not experience it firsthand, but allowed you to feel what it kind of is and see what happens. And then obviously it showed the animations, and it was not nice, but it was good to see what does happen and stuff.
Great, thank you.
So what they're describing is a leap in time that we've spoke to all these young people. They're telling us horrific things about use of drugs in vapes, how they're accessing parties, that the messaging and the services are broken, and what can we do about it? So that's that expectations piece of work. And this is when things really mattered about how young people's work was represented. So we created an event, a series of events, a whole week series of events. I'm sitting in a room which was the bed sit in that event. So everything that was being shared in the report, the information that every group was sharing, was created into an immersive experience. In every space in Helix Arts was a different space that young people had talked about, a school, a youth group, on the street, homeless, and then the stories that they shared, their narratives, their experiences, then was brought to life, and an actor, through the script that was developed from the report, guided people around this experience. So I'm just going to introduce a little bit of that. I just need to switch a little bit. I'll just show you a little bit of this.
School is full of rumours. You know, who said this? Who took what? The horror stories we tell ourselves. But are they real or something else? Have you heard? What did they take? What put them in a proper state? Umbrellas filled with extreme drugs. Boosters full of funky stuff. Truckloads of shrooms. Huge balloons. Dab pens vaped on the way to school. Pounds of coke. Tons of green. Intense amounts of ketamine. Fat lines of sniff. Mountains of pills. Where did Raji tablets make them sleep? Dodgy tales. Simple truths. No, for sure, you watched the proof. Have you heard? It must be true. But are you sure? What did they do?
I'll leave you on a cliffhanger. So yes, this will be available publicly. In this experience, this is the classroom where the young people had designed a test, and I can tell you the most uncomfortable people were the adults in that test. It's one of the resources. Take the test, you'll realise what I mean. And in this room, there was poetry in this room, and that's what Matthew, the actor, is speaking. But there's this sense of understanding a bit too late, and that was another message. There's a lot of subliminal layers to how the young people wanted it presented, what they wanted to say. And this poetry was iterative, and it's just one example. So I know that Becky had described more, all these different creative approaches. So there was also posters, new messaging, collage, design, music, and I'll just skip back to the presentation. Are we on the same slide? Yes. So there's loads of learning. There's another film which I won't share, but it's Grace and Rex's animation. And what surprised me in that, and that's the beautiful thing of consultation and listening and exploring all those surprises, some of them a bit sad too, but that they were actually breaking up what we thought about drugs. They were talking about medicine. So at this time, this is when the ADHD medication wasn't accessible, and Grace and Rex had been challenged with the conversations around gender change and the medication available to them. And those are those things where we realized it was much broader, and also the support may or may not have been there in ways that we wanted it to be there. So I'll just share a little bit about their views when they were realizing what that audience experience was.
They had like the different ways of showing it.
Don't know. I'm scared to press the button again.
There was the actor, there was where it was like you were in the room. Then obviously there was when it was like you were in a school, you were taking a test, because I think it was nice, because if you may have like certain things you struggle to process or you don't understand, it means there's other opportunities for you to still see your opinions and voices. Or even, I think there was a room where you could actually write on cardboard in the room, so even if you didn't understand the other like opinions and stuff, or you didn't process it the way it was shown, you were still able to read other people's and put your own down.
Could be sure this one. It's a short
I think it was really nice to
man
see other like young people's opinions and thoughts and how they showed it, and also just being able to say like our opinions showed like that we have been heard, like nothing was changed or anything like that.
So I'm just going to sum up. There's some things around the different people that we work with and the relationships young people have with them that is part of that acceptance and disagreement spectrum when you are finding things out, and also that understanding from young people where they fit and how they are supported. So I've got reams and reams of these sound bites where young people have talked about this, but it didn't go out without challenges. You know, when we're sharing difficult things and trying to communicate with lots and lots of stakeholders, we'll get it wrong as well. But we'll also, when it's, I guess, issues like drugs, we don't always lead with let's talk about drugs, kids, do we? We're talking about lifestyles, we're talking about how is it, how are you, in that ambition to make sure we shared it in the right way sometimes brought some of that gnarliness. But the special thing about this is that the audience has understood and believed in what we were trying to do, and the audience has continued to be part of the consultation and the feedback loop. And that whether there's a PR nightmare about people thinking kids are getting drugs at school, that's the shortcut stuff that continually the young people have said that they're challenged by. So there was lots of kind of PR and communications management, which isn't just that like warm and fuzzy communications partnership, but to kind of mitigate the risk around people ruining what young people were really trying to achieve. So there's lots and lots and lots of more things I could say, but these are some of the key things, you know, about involving the audience and not seeing it as a viewing audience. It's an immersive audience, making the uncomfortable comfortable, and that's a beautiful line Rex used. Challenge stakeholders, you know, that when we trust our partners who look after young people, but actually creative spaces, safe creative spaces, sometimes give them a route where they hadn't been, you know, they can be someone different sometimes when they want to be. And we'll have to keep trying to communicate the difficult things in ways, a little bit of ways that they are appetizing, that are digestible. But if they're not, it's all right. So we can keep checking ourselves, we can keep challenging ourselves, and we can design trial and error into the way we work. So we'll just finish off, I think I'll do Rex's.
Well, the uncomfortable truth, it's obviously not something you hear a lot, and it was obviously, it never, with all that was shown, and it was like, it was just one after the other, and it was honestly quite refreshing and stuff, because it also allowed us to share our uncomfortable truths, and it was like, it was good to be able to voice them and let people hear them.
So I think that is going to be me, so I don't break into your breaks. There's loads more you can find out, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. That was absolutely fascinating. Hopefully we've still got time for questions or comments now, Louise. I just think whenever we manage to get to the point where we can hold space to look at what we do and how we do it, the detail and complexity of it is always stunning to me, and just that kind of testament to the attunement to carry that word forward, and the noticing that goes into kind of high quality reflective practice and aiming towards best practice that we're all concerned with. So thank you to all three speakers. Open to the floor for questions now, I think.
Yeah, I think we can do 5 minutes of questions and then we'll take a 5-minute break. We have flex for that, but fantastic speakers. Thank you, all of you. So if you want to stick a hand up or pop something in the chat if you have a question.
I can't see any hands so far, so maybe give a shout if there's something you'd like to say. We're putting links into the feed, so hopefully Lots of the things that you've seen today we can share with you anyway. So we've taken in quite a lot of information over those 3 sharers. It was dense with quality.
And we'll also upload those to the learning platform Thinkific as well. But if there aren't questions now, that is absolutely fine. It's last chance, speak now. Otherwise, we will, I think, take a little 5-minute break. What can I ask you to think about something? And Becky has shared the QR code, which we will leave up. While you're having a little 5-minute break, just have a little think yourselves about what might stop you or your organisation from really hearing young people. And also, how could you approach listening differently? And when you come back, just use Menti using this QR code just to scan the code and add a word or two for each question, and we'll get a sense of where you're at. But please come back at 4:15 if that's okay. And just a great thank you again to our speakers. Amazing. Thank you so much.
I'm just putting the code for the Menti in the chat in case everyone has any issues with the QR code. I'll put that back up now though.
Okay, thanks. See everyone at 1:15. Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm just doing a little spotlighting of the interpreters if I can. Wonderful, yeah, we're here. Lovely. Becky, do you want to just I'm happy to do this bit too, but just to ask people if they would contribute a few words to the chat. I'll shut up and let you say this.
Well, would you like to, if you have some words, if you have something that is copy and pastable into the chat, or is it okay for people to speak their words, Louise?
Yes, I think it's just timing for speaking words. We can have a few spoken and a few in chat.
Okay.
If somebody would like to just speak to us, that's wonderful. Just stick a hand up. Otherwise, pop it in the chat. Thank you.
I'm quite enjoying the synchronicity that you were thinking about spaces while you were in virtual spaces.
Yes, options for anonymity. Absolutely. That does seem like that helps with safety and maybe opening up space for people to express their views.
I'm happy to speak to the group, Louise, if that's
please do.
Just to add in a different dimension. So it's Karen Robinson from Royal Ballet and Opera, and I was with 3 other individuals. And in summary, what I think, and you jump in if I've missed it, was ultimately ownership of the space in which we are meeting and communicating with the young people. There was a question over who's facilitating that session, so that there is like a relationship with those young people and it's not brand new and just questioning. That there was a respect for and an equality of the young people in the room with those that are there, enabled to act as peers rather than information providers. And another word that come up for us was the word familiarity. And not in that sense of over familiar, but just in terms of the young people knowing the space, knowing the adults in the room, that allows them to feel comfortable enough to use their own authentic voice. I think in summary, that's what we said. Oh, a flexible approach and how we listen to what young people are saying, or how we actively listen to what the young people are saying, not just saying, but what their physical response might be in that given moment.
And
fantastic.
Sometimes a facilitator can support that work by actively reflecting as a session unfolds. It can be quite interesting to sort of talk about how you might feel you are reading the room, because that can also bring out deeper conversation about what is being communicated, and also helps you kind of avoid some of your own preconceptions. I've led sessions with teenagers where I felt like there was a certain atmosphere in the room that was actually not part of their thinking at all, and just being able to have free dialogue around that is really helpful in building trust. Thank you, Karen. Wow, there's so much good stuff in the chat.
And we will take this stuff from the chat and add it to the kind of top tips sheet that we're compiling from today, which we'll send round later this week. But fantastic things, thank you. It looks like there were some really rich conversations. We have time for another verbal share, if anyone else wants to do a verbal share. Thank you for that, Karen. I'm going to, de-spotlight you. Don't take it personally. Anyone else want to speak? Are you happy with putting stuff in the chat? Doing great work there. Oh, really interesting. Emma's put in the chat a really specific one about being from a physical activity organisation and had to be clear that it's not always appropriate to turn up into youth groups in your sports outfit. Indeed, I can see that could be a challenge.
I can say a little bit more about that, Louise, if
Yeah.
you want, if there's time. So we very much want to talk to and hear from young people who are not physically active. So rocking up to your local art club or music group in your energizing hoodie and tracksuit bottoms is not necessarily going to get the best response from the inactive or less active young people that we want to hear from.
That is a very good point. Thank you. Seeing wonderful stuff being shared. Fantastic.
I think there's some interesting stuff coming through about who facilitates and how the facilitator is supported and how you build up those kind of relationships, especially if you're in an organisation that maybe doesn't already have this practice as part of your work. That might be something interesting to follow up at a subsequent session about support for facilitators and how you can establish rapport. I mean, we've certainly found that running consultations that use creative practice can be one shortcut to establishing rapport with young people, because you have this parallel activity or integrated activity that's running in the room that is supporting those discussions. And if you can talk about the work as much as the ideas. But there's quite a few comments about facilitation in here, which I think would be really interesting to follow up on.
I just put something on one of our projects. When you don't know you need the specialist, so we had to employ an intimacy coach, but sometimes you underestimate the space and underestimate how the space changes and who's needed in that space. So yeah, that was a really specific thing around domestic violence. So we did have partners who were bringing that, but they didn't do it. So it's catching this space at the right time for the right reasons.
I think that's a really interesting thing about expertise, and often we do have a bit of budget for some of these things, not everyone, but sometimes we don't necessarily think actually we need to put the budget first of all into the right facilitation or the right creative activity that means that people aren't feeling like they're in the spotlight. So yeah, very good points. I think I'm going to draw this part to a close, and we'll go into our wrap up. But thank you so much, everybody, for your contributions there, and for everything that you have put into chat, which, as I say, we will bring together into a kind of top tips document for you. And also thank you for the links that are being shared, which also will add to our resources. And so actually, I'm at this point going to just hand to my colleague Angela to just show us a little bit about the resources platform that we have. And then we'll come to Jen for a bit of a reflection, wrap up, and our evaluation poll. But I'm just going to find Angela.
I am here. I don't know if you can see me, Louise. But hopefully hear me.
Yes, I've
Hello.
got you. I'm going to spotlight you, and then you can share as well.
Brilliant. Lovely to meet you all and see you all. I'm just going to share my screen and hope that this works. Can everyone see? Louise, if you could possibly put a thumbs up. Or
All good.
Thank you very much. So some of you may have been on our Thinkific online platform before, but if you haven't, then hopefully this will help. So I will pop details in the chat as well as to how you can access it. But you can go to artswork.thinkific.com and then it will ask you to log in and you will hopefully see this screen. For those of you who've used it before, you'll be able to go straight onto it. For anyone that's new and hasn't logged onto it before, we will try and ensure you are all set up and sent the link by the end of the week. So please bear with us, but we will get that to you. Sorry, apologies, little people, listening to little people, very apt. And if you have got a login but are having issues, then I'll drop an email address in the chat that you can get hold of us. So I will stop waffling and show you how to get onto it. So when you are on the main page, if you go to your dashboard and look at that. I haven't finished it yet, so I've got some work to do. Amongst your training courses, you should be able to find the Youth Voice and Youth Leadership. And oh, look at this, some brand new links we've got here. I should have started at the beginning. So you can work your way through here. We have actually done some slides on how to access the course, but within here you will find a number of resources, some from the first meeting. So I will just take you through some of these and you can just click through either on the side here on the left, or you can press the continue button. If there's something that you really want to come back to, you can mark it as incomplete and that will remind you on this side to go back to it. So lots of resources in here. And if I can particularly draw your attention to things such as the Youth Voice and Participation Handbook. So you can go in here. Hopefully this works. Beautiful. Can you all see that? Yes, Louise is smiling. Brilliant. Fantastic resource that is just in one place. So rather than you having to dig around on the internet for it, you can find it here. Really easy kind of flip book to look through, some fantastic stuff in there, starting from the basics, and hopefully you can see, I won't go all the way through, but you can see how we're getting on. Shh, shh, shh. Yes, thank you. Just bear with me. And then we will, as you can see, there's lots of other resources, including some of the things that have been touched on today. And we will also put the session recordings on here as well. So if you want to go back, review anything that's been said today, then we will get that on there as well. As I say, just bear with us a couple of days and we will get that on there for you. I'll also pop in the chat a link to the next session as well, and we'd love to see you along to that in January as well. Is there anything else you'd like me to cover, Louise?
No, that's it. And actually, I have the link ready and I will put that in the chat now. I know. I think that's lovely. Thanks so much, Angela. Really appreciate that. So we are gonna just wrap up by doing two things. I'm going to ask my wonderful colleague Jen just to give us who's working with Norfolk and Norwich Festival, to give us a little wrap up. And I am also going to launch the little evaluation poll, which is very, very simple and which we'd love you to do, please, just before you go. And my one other thing to signal is that there are ongoing advice sessions from Arts Council Southeast. For anyone who's wanting more advice or is thinking about a project or involving youth led or youth voice work in their work. So do get in touch. We will email around again about the next round of opportunities for those. I'm just going to launch that poll, and hopefully that will pop up for you. Can someone just tell me that that has popped up?
Yep.
Yeah, lovely. Right, handing over to Jen then for our little wrap up. If I can find you, I will spotlight you. There you are.
Thanks, Louise. Hi, everyone. So my name's Jen, and I'm a white woman with long red hair and a yellow wall behind me. And I've been working behind the scenes, helping to plan these sessions. As I did at the last session, I've been reflecting on what we've heard today, and I've just pulled out 3 themes that I think came through particularly clearly as a way of wrapping up. So I'm starting with stating the obvious given the conversations we've just had, but first and foremost, safety is the most important foundation for children and young people feeling ready and willing to share and contribute, and really taking the time, putting the thought to getting to the heart of what that means. We've just defined that much more together, but from our speakers, this included the transparency Becky described, interpersonal interactions that children and young people can trust, like Rona described, and putting time into mitigating risk in what's shared and how, as Cheryl talked about. And then secondly, there were so many lovely reminders and examples of the importance of playfulness and creativity in unlocking space for children and young people to talk and share. And that actually the creative and artistic work we all do is the foundation of effective consultation. So in many ways, we've got the skills that we need already. And lastly, the skill that sits behind great listening and learning from children and young people. And a couple of examples there were the importance of us all committing to learning about and attuning to how babies, children, and non-verbal people communicate, show their agency and contributions. And then from Helix, the number of stages, the nuance that you move through in truly and deeply listening. And some of the examples Cheryl gave were that invitation into listening, exploring, connecting the dots, leaning into the surprises. And I think just that listening is an art in itself and a capacity for us to really consciously build across our organisations and as a sector as a whole.
Oh, thank you. Masterfully, mistressfully done there, Jen. Pulling together things from a really, really rich session. I really appreciate that. We're going to draw things to a close. Please do fill in that little form if you can, the little poll that tells us your feedback and what's been good today, what could be improved. I just want to say thank you so much to our speakers for sharing, and also to all the young people that whose voices they have shared as well. To the practice that you have all shared, and hope that we will see you again, or some of you, for the next session about co-creation, where we'll be taking a deep dive into really making things together, and how we can all move forwards with that. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time today, and have a great evening. Thank you. Bye.